Listen, Michigan hasn't exactly been very exciting. And while we've talked a lot about the things that Michigan is doing poorly, I decided to give back to you, the people, and have a Michigan mailbag for the first time. And I don't know, it's been a long time. So we're answering all of your Michigan football questions right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Sorry for the later time than we normally do. I like to have these out by 5 on audio and 6 at video. I'm sure you've noticed. That's been kind of the plan. But just kind of got delayed up today. So I opened up a mailbag for you, the people, and I did it earlier today. Still got 28 questions. So let's get right to it, starting with our leaders and best. Not the full complement, probably by virtue of me asking at like 1 p.m. or something like that. So let's start with Josh Barr at Jadicky. Where do you stand on the fan base's feeling that both coordinators need to go? And we got a lot of questions about this. I'll touch on some of it later. I'm not quite fully there. I don't think that, let me put it this way. I don't think Kirk Campbell doesn't feel long for the job in a lot of ways. Even with his creative and everything, I think some of his play calling has been. It just doesn't feel like he has a good meter for when things should be called and all of that. He's had some games where it's been like, okay, but it's just I think that Sharon, by virtue of being a previous offensive coordinator, you can kind of just tell that like he's not exactly happy with it. He's not going to finger point, as he says. He's not going to throw guys under the bus. But I think that it just doesn't feel, especially as he's going to be fighting for his own life, right? He's not Jim Harbaugh, so I just think he'll end up making a change there. I'm not as certain with Wink Martindale. I think Wink Martindale, his defense has not lived up to expectations, and certainly the pass defense has been not as good. Michigan's faced a lot of more high caliber passing offenses, better teams and all of that this year than they have in the last 3 years. So you have to understand that mixed with the personnel, right? Like it was a group that mostly is new to starting. Had a lot of experience, right? These were some of the players, like I've long said, these were the players that were on the field that final play against Alabama and Rose Bowl. But at the same time, I mean, there was still a lot to work out. The new coordinator, I'm not as down on the defense as a lot of fans are. I do think there's some massive issues, third down, personnel usage and everything. I understand that you want to, and Wink talked about it today a little bit. You want to get Mason and KG off the field as much as you can, just so that you can use them more when you absolutely need them. You see that exact strategy happening. Like you might not see them at the beginning of a drive, then you get to a 3rd and 5 and they put them back out there, right? But there's certainly some things to work on, but I kind of like where the trajectory of a lot of these positions are. It might not look great on a week-to-week basis, but you can see some improvement. In the secondary, I know a lot of people don't think so. Safety is a little bit more dicey than corner when people are healthy, but you've seen Jair Hill get better over the course of the year. Will Johnson's just Will Johnson generally. And I think the safeties were much better in the early part of the season than they've been lately. So, and then now they're dealing with injuries, so it's kind of hard to really, it's a very banged up unit at this moment. So it's kind of hard to evaluate properly. Linebackers have gotten better. But not as good as I thought that those two guys were going to be in the middle. And the front has just been phenomenal regardless. So continuing here, what offseason changes besides that would benefit more in getting Michigan back to competing at the levels they have the last 3 years that are viable? Transfer portal and or recruiting, right? Like you get a Bryce Underwood, that might not, he would be a freshman. So it's kind of hard to say a freshman quarterback is going to be able to come in and do exactly what he needs to do. But I think transfer portal and or Bryce Underwood. I think you have to get the quarterback. You think you absolutely have to also probably bolster the offensive line. I think it'll be great in the future, but I would look at 1 or 2 pieces and say, like, we just need someone better here. And obviously wide receivers. That's most of the team. So, on offense, on defense, I mean, you just are probably going to be you're going to be plugging some holes. Defensive tackle is probably going to be a massive need, as well as edge rusher. I mean, they're going to be losing a lot, unfortunately. I feel good about the tight ends. I feel good about the running backs as long as Jordan Marshall can stay healthy. And I think you have a Jordan Marshall, Benjamin Hall rotation next year. That could be pretty good. I think and Jasper Parker, I think he could actually contribute in year one. This would be a year next year where that might be more necessary. Maybe Cole Cabana if he gets healthy. But defensively, I think both linebackers have to stay for another year now, right? Which, hopefully that means they get better. If you get Rod Moore deciding to come back for another year, which I would imagine he has to, that helps. And then hopefully you figure out whatever it is with Jaden Mangum and Jair Hill and maybe another corner, or maybe you hope that Josiah Edmonds ready. That's why they're getting him involved. They're getting Mason Cole involved, right? I think that there will be a lot of new looks, but if you have the consistency of Wink Martindale and the coaches back there, then maybe it's just better, right? By virtue of that. Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1. Will you be in Bloomington for the game on Saturday? I will not. It's the first game I am missing in 6 years. The last game I missed was in November. It was of 2018. It was at Rutgers. I did not go to that game. I am not going to Bloomington. Why am I not going? Because it's my birthday and I want to spend it with Sarah and my best friend. And so I decided about a month ago I wasn't going to go to that. So I'm not going to be in Bloomington. It's the first time, and that includes 2020. I was at all 6 games in 2020. Number 2, how impressed were you with Michigan's men's and women's basketball teams after game 1? I'm impressed with women's. I didn't watch any of it, but just by virtue of that they competed hard and were in striking distance with the number 1 team in the country. I'm never surprised by what Kim Barnes-Erica was able to do. Men's basketball, though, because I was at that game, I couldn't be more impressed. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable what Dusty May has already started to do. I mean, I thought it was the most exciting Michigan team we've seen since 2018, the 2017-18 team. I mean, it was just very exciting because even when Juwan had the decent team in his second year and they really looked like they were going to do something, I think that this was more exciting because we always had this promise that it was like anyone can score and they were just going to be hot. And these guys were just hot against what may be. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a good Cleveland State team, but it had been a good one. So I thought that was good. Number 3, how are you feeling? I'm feeling much better. As you can hear, I have a pretty full voice now, but I still have some moments. Like I said, I think I don't know for sure, but I'm recovering from what I think is pneumonia. How can I make that qualification? Same way I made the qualification of when I've had COVID. I never tested positive for COVID, but when everyone around me ended up going and getting tested and finding out that they got COVID and they weren't sick and I was sick, kind of the same thing. Sarah's youngest son, he has pneumonia. A couple other people I've been around, they have pneumonia. I've had some struggles with my feels like my lungs are heavy and full of stuff. So still kind of day to day. I missed the last 2 days of press conferences because I felt like it was better off for me to rest. Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156. Why is everyone jumping to blame coaches? The play with Samaj, the play with the Samaj throw was the same play the Lions ran. Everyone loved, and the defensive player didn't bite. Why does everyone think that makes it a terrible play call? I just think that wasn't the time and the place, really. And I understand, like, hindsight's 2020. Everyone can be a Monday morning quarterback. You can look at that and say, hey, if it works, you're like, wow, what a brilliant play call by Kirk Campbell. However, I just think that, like, you needed to go to a more bread and butter play instead of a kind of a low, like that, like taking the ball out of Davis Warren's hands at that point after he had been very good. You rather have it in his hands, and if he makes a mistake, he makes a mistake. The receiver doesn't make a play, receiver doesn't make a play. Having a receiver throw to a quarterback, I mean, that's fine. I think in the second quarter, we're kind of in a situation like you're trying to run the score up to get that lead against MSU when they had Donovan throw the ball. That's fine. That's kind of catching them off guard. I feel like that's not really catching them off guard, and it didn't catch them off guard. I think there were a lot of other coaching things that were questionable in that game too, but we're running out of time in segment 1. So, plus memory is not great. Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. Are we a basketball school? I mean, it kind of feels like we're back in like 2012, 2013 right now, doesn't it? But no, we'll forever be a football school. People love basketball when it's excellent. It has to be elite. People do not care when it's just merely good. I remember 2017 going to a late season Ohio State game on a Saturday night. People couldn't care less. And that same year they made it to the what was it? The Sweet 16. So, yeah. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. We got plenty left. So we will get to those questions here in just a moment. But before we do, guys, if you ever felt like you needed a little boost in the bedroom, well, it's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you access with affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments, like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics are up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find that ED option that works for you. Plus, they've got other things. They've got skincare. I have some Hims skincare stuff. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's hims.com, HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment. But before we do, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I almost just went off script and just said something completely random. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when the hunch hits you in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same exact page where you placed your bet in the first place. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's continue on with a Victor's Valiant. It's a smaller Victor's Valiant than usual. Again, because I made the call late. Start with Blake Stackpool, at Blake Stackpool. Welcome to the Victor's Valiant for the first time, I believe. Is there any smoke of Sloan to U of M, or is it just to ECU? And how would that affect Underwood? There's no smoke for Sloan to Michigan. Could that change? Maybe, but I highly doubt it. How would it affect Underwood? I mean, if they got Sloan to Michigan, Underwood would be a lock. That's how it would affect it. If he leaves LSU, it makes the process that much easier. I would put it more like in the 80-20% for Michigan. Maybe higher. So, if you really want to get Bryce Underwood, if you want to make it like a sure thing, get Sloan out the door, from my understanding. Jacob Shavaria, at Shavaria. We need Dusty to call some plays for Kirk. That was amazing. Now that our season is basically over, would you prefer Orgy to get the remaining reps in case Underwood or any other transfer QB doesn't work out next year? Do you see Orgy leaving next year or switching to T or WR, a tight end or wide receiver? I don't know why I said it that way. I'd stick with Davis Warren now. I think he's earned it. I do, but again, I still like the Alex Orgy offense better. I like handcuffing Kirk Campbell a little bit. I think that makes him better at what he does when he has those handcuffs on a little bit. That said, I don't know what's going to happen with these quarterbacks. I think they've got to raise the floor significantly as well as the ceiling of the quarterback room. So whether it's Underwood, any transfer QB, I think it's going to be whatever freshman they have, whether it's Underwood, Malik Washington, and definitely a transfer QB regardless. Is it going to be a high-level transfer QB? I think that probably depends heavily on if they're able to get Underwood. If they get Malik Washington out of Maryland or who's committed to Maryland rather, I think maybe you go for a higher-end target, right? But I don't know. I don't think the quarterback who is going to be starting for Michigan next year is on the roster. Let me put it that way. And unless Jaden Davis can fix some stuff, I mean, I could be wrong. And if the Davis family is watching, I apologize. But I do think that I don't think he's ready for prime time at this point. Maybe he is next year. But I would be honestly surprised. I think there's some mechanical things that need to be worked out. I'm not the one at William Cawthorn 9 with 4 questions. Well, I'm going to knock out the how are you feeling because I answered that. That was his last one, but thank you for asking. Can you explain the grad transfer? Like, do they still take classes? Yeah, they still take classes, grad transfers. It's, that's why they're graduate students. Might not be, a full load like an undergrad, and a lot of undergrads take more classes than I took, and they have football on top of it, which is perplexing to me. But because I usually took 12 credits per. In part because I always had production classes, and one year I had 2, and then I basically freelanced in a third that didn't count for credit, and I did terrible in all 3. That's film production classes, by the way, and you were always recommended to only take 1. But often I would take like a screenwriting class and another. Like you were only supposed to really take like an actual like film production and screen. Anyway. You're only supposed to do 1, and I usually did 2, and grades suffered as a result. So anyway, yeah, it's like a graduate student, right? Someone who's graduated. I don't know that they have to be in like actual grad school or not, but they have to at least be taking classes to be eligible. Do you think that Doug Skeen or John Jansen would be the O-line coach if asked? I'm sure they would be, but I mean, neither are coaching, so I don't think that would be a wise choice. I think Grant Newsom's doing fine with what he has, but I mean, if there's someone else you want to go get, I wouldn't go and get like a former Michigan offensive lineman that has not been coaching. And people, I don't know why people are always saying that with Brady, like you get Brady as the quarterback's coach. He hasn't coached. Just because he can do doesn't mean he can coach. They're completely different things. The reason why Jed Fish is a head coach, he never played college football or higher. I don't even know what his. I mean, Mike McDonald didn't either. Will Sarah ever make an appearance so we can hear her take on this team we all love? Eventually, she's camera shy, regardless of how stunningly beautiful she is. But I sent that to her, and she just said, LOL, that's amazing. So she's mentioned it before after I did the one-off on my personal YouTube channel in 2021 where I called up my mom and asked her questions about Colorado State. Because my mom went to Colorado State, but my mom's like Sarah. They neither know anything about football. My mom knows more than Sarah does. Sarah wanted me to do the same thing with her like the next week because she came and shot the Hawaii game with me. Or 2022. That's 2022. But no, I mean, eventually she'll be on. We've talked about it. Eventually she'll be on. All right, Clark at Blue for Life 8. Going back to the Connor Stallings interview on Bussin' with the Boys, he said Michigan didn't have a new signal decipher. Do you think Michigan is hesitant to get a new one after what went down with Stallings, or are they just taking their time finding a new one? I just don't think it's as necessary as it was before. Because, and I know I got another question about this. It's not as necessary as it was before because you got the direct helmet, coordinator to quarterback communication in the helmet. So I just don't think it has become quite as necessary. So I'm sure some teams still have them, but I think their roles have been significantly diminished from what they were before. Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Health report on Will Johnson. Still seems dicey. I don't know. They've been keeping that close to the vest, so I couldn't really tell you. All right, we'll finish out this shorter segment 2 at the Rican Raider at Hamstand87. Do you think Sharon knows he needs a new OC and how badly it would affect recruiting? Would Kirk go back to QB coaching? I do think Sharon knows the former. I don't know on the latter. But at the same time, when discussing it with some colleagues, it was kind of like, well, where would he go? Right? Like, it's not like he'd be leaving and going getting another offensive coordinator job. There's no one that's watching Michigan right now and saying we need that guy to be our coordinator. No one, not even in the FCS level. So I think that it's certainly possible on the latter. On the former, I do think Sharon knows that. I can't say for sure, but I have a pretty good feeling that he does. All right, let's continue on here in just a moment. We've got less than 10 minutes left, thanks to the timer here. So we'll do that here in just a moment. Z-Biotics. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted to a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember how to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. You drink alcohol, drink pre-alcohol. I mean, the drinking alcohol part's obvious. But for best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So go to ZBiotics/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. All right, we're going to continue on here in just a moment, but obviously there's one more home game. There's 2 road games. There's concerts. There's NBA basketball, Michigan basketball. There's still Lions football, all that kind of stuff. The best way to get in the door is with Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There are so many amazing things that you can do with this. The super deal, curated deals, seat view before you buy. They're all in pricing feature. If you toggle that feature, it shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LockedOnCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LockedOnCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, let's finish out. We got like 7 minutes that we can do this. So we got tons of questions left. So we're going to rock through these really fast. 2 of a similar ilk, Pro 1209 and Narrative Pusher. Why is Wink still employed? And then the Narrative Pusher says, is there a real shot Wink isn't here next year asking for a friend? Will they make a change? It's possible. I don't know. It's not always, change isn't always better. Okay. You have to remember that change is not always better. If someone else ends up being out there and is better, then, Sharon, I'm sure will make a change. But I would give him another year and see what he does. It doesn't seem like it to Michigan fans, but there's about 80. Yeah, I'd say about 80 teams that would love to have Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator. So I think that maybe some mentality shifts have to happen. But I think that it's not as dire as it feels to the average Michigan fan. He's had to deal with short fields often because of turnovers. He's had to deal with a lot of injuries. He's had to deal with players really getting their first taste of college football. There's been a lot, right? And if you're only as strong as your weakest link, and unfortunately, Michigan has a lot more weak links right now than it did last year. Champs at Wolverines MI. Update on Bryce Underwood and Meadows. It's the same as I gave you yesterday. So check out Tuesday's episode. I haven't talked to anyone since yesterday morning. So as far as I know, it's the same. If Underwood does not work out, who and what seems like plan B? Definitely transfer quarterback. I think that's a given regardless. And Malik Washington, who they just offered, who's committed to Maryland, would be the other one. All right. Horizon League champs, Jason Macklin. At JMoneySniper17, I think the direction Moore wants to go for offense is different than Jim. Therefore, I think Kirk is not the right choice. How about hiring Joe Sloan away from LSU, followed by Bryce flipping to Michigan? I mean, that's great. But, I mean, Joe Sloan is going to be in the running for a head coaching position as alma mater. LSU's a little bit more of a proven track record in terms of offensive coordinator and running an offense. that's a lateral move, essentially. I understand Michigan's got more cachet. You'd have to probably pay him a bit more. And I think he probably wants to be a head coach. Garbage American citizen at Bell 524 Bell. Can we expect a freshman 5-star QB to be in the transfer portal? Zero playing time behind QBs that are not up to par and expectations of large money on another QB enough to just push him out. I mean, it's possible. I'm not going to speculate who's going to enter and not enter the transfer portal. And he's talking about Jaden Davis, if you didn't catch that. Blue Captain at Maize and Blue 360. Temperature of the locker room. Are players frustrated? Is the culture still strong? Culture is easy to keep when winning, but the season has been rough. Is Wink still being arrogant about his defensive scheme when asked? He needs to adjust the college game. I think Wink felt a little bit more humble when talking to him today. As far as the locker room, I think they're still actually pretty strong culture-wise. Does not seem like that it's very fractious, so that's good. But it could be kept behind closed doors, but usually those things bleed out. I think you could see in the field, they still played hard against Oregon the whole game, and that's usually a pretty good sign. Decipher God at B Fiddler. Current update with the NCAA. Will Sharon look elsewhere for coordinators after the season? So we've tackled the coordinators part a million times all across, but update with the NCAA. I know they're still kind of, I don't really know what they're doing, but I'd heard that they had some late movement. I don't think that anything's changed. I'm not concerned whatsoever about the proverbial hammer dropping or anything like that. So Anthony D. Tomlinson at Banks_design. Will Jaden Davis see any playing time this season? Well, if he's going to see any, it's going to be sometime in these next couple games. Maybe against Northwestern, probably not against Ohio State, probably not against Indiana, maybe in the bowl game. I don't know, but he can keep his red shirt at this point. So, but I don't, if he was a viable option and could help Michigan win, he would be out on the field. Let me put it that way. William Beatty at WRB the 13. Why doesn't Wink deserve to be fired into the sun after his most recent comments on this team's tackling or lack thereof? I asked him that question, by the way, that yielded his response. He disagrees with me on the team's poor tackling. He said, okay. But it was more that it was like we have other issues that he's like, I think our tackling is fine. We've got other issues that we have to deal with. It's just not as high on the priority. But talking to a friend who was used to be around over there, we had some concerns about just the pillars, right? The block destruction and the ball, just like the ability to get turnovers, all that kind of stuff. I have more feelings on that. All right, I'm getting behind the 8 ball. I got to hurry up here. JJ at MJJ 7584. How do you feel about the possibility Michigan football may enter another down period like 2008 to 14? I'm not that concerned. They'll fix it. I think that Sharon will fix it. Bacchus Duo at Bacchus Duo. Thank you. Stallions talked about the most important part of what he was doing was making sure that we got the right adjustment last and how prior to 2020 they were always last. And then we turned that around. Can someone gauge how our OCDC are doing right now on that? That's not really the issue. It's just, it's, I think poor play calling on both sides, poor execution on both sides. That it's that more than anything. They've been in position to make plays on either end. It's just that they're just behind the 8 ball slightly. Jacob Phillips at Jake_Phillips_8 in media. How are there so many conflicting reports on the same topic? Examples being Connor Stallions and Bryce Underwood. It's because different people have varying degrees to which they are close or not close to a situation. I was talking to Connor Stallions directly, and I was the only one who was doing it at that, throughout that whole process. With Bryce Underwood, some people have better sources than others. I have a couple that are only one source, one person removed. So that's why other people might be, playing game of telephone a little bit. I got 2 more in less than a minute here. Wolverine Libertatis, predictions on QB starter next year. Says he's a believer in Davis Warren. I'm going to go ahead and say it's someone who's not on the roster. And Brian Salo says if we lose to Indiana, will any more of our guys check out like Loveland or Graham? I think it's a possibility, but it just doesn't seem culturally like what this team's about. So, Kenneth Grant said yesterday that he's not hanging him up at all this year, wants to play. That's a culture sign because it's guys who love football are going to play football and worry less about the future than they are hey, I want to go out there and play football and do what I'm supposed to do. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We will be back on Thursday. I need to ask Trente Jones if he's coming on. It's been a while. So we'll try to do that now that I have a voice. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.